Get appalled at. I'm blacker than Nina the Samoan. I just want freedom and want all these people left alone. How in the world is that champing you? Laughable, you catch an attitude. Glad that you going back.
Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. Okay, so it took me a while to get started on this video because I was absorbing all the tears, all the anger, all the frustration of everybody who is so mad that Josh Alexander got effed over, which is, wrestling in its purest form is when you have that guttural reaction, that literal, oh, he's a good heel, ha 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 ha, I can laugh at his jokes. No, that's not what you're supposed to have. The kind of heat that drew money, that drew interest, was the kind of heat that made crowds bring guns and knives to the show. The kind of heat that made people jump the barricade. They made the Iron Sheik have to get carried out in an ambulance when he wasn't even hurt, just so people wouldn't kill him. That's real heat. When it's real. When you feel it in your bones, in your abdomen, that's real heat. That's when you've done it right. That's when you got pro wrestling correct. Impact got it right. They finally got it right. They got people who watch this show to be emotionally invested in this show and not just watching moves. It was so well done. Excellent stuff. Now, you may have pitched on this video and said, okay, you're going to explain to me what happened, right? And I said, of course I am. It's a two-part scenario. Moose wins the Call Your Shot gauntlet. It is a gauntlet of 20 individuals. It has some women in it. The Kiss Demon. I think, was it really Dale Torberg or somebody else's? I mean, I'm pretty sure somebody else knows by now. But the Kiss Demon made an appearance, which was really funny because Johnny Swinger was in the match. And Johnny Swinger thinks the Kiss Demon is Gene Simmons. So he wants to get an autograph. He marks out for the Kiss Demon. He gets the autograph and then gets thrown out. Kiss Demon gets thrown out too. But Moose wins this match. And this match is essentially a Money in the Bank. Everybody has their version of it now. Of the Money in the Bank concept. So Moose is, can challenge any champion at any time that he wants. Josh Alexander wrestles Christian in a match that was, to me, well worked, but nothing special. And he wins via submission in an ankle lock. And Christian, is a man of his word. He submits to Josh Alexander, and they did a really good job coming up, running up to this thing. Christian cut this promo earlier in the night, like, he knows what it's like to sacrifice. Because everybody talks about what Josh Alexander sacrificed. He said, I sacrificed too. I sacrificed 7 years of my career to come back here and get here. And people keep telling me that, I'm at this point in my career where I should be thinking about passing the torch. And he says, what if I don't want to pass the torch? What if the torch still burns deep within my soul? I don't want to pass the torch. It still burns within me to be the world champion. And now I am the world champion. And so he tells Josh Alexander, be prepared to be a disappointment. Prepare to disappoint the fans. To prepare to disappoint your wife and son. He goes out there, Christian loses. And like a man, Christian accepts that he lost. He hands over the world title to Josh Alexander. Josh Alexander's wife and son get in the ring. They get in the ring. And Josh Alexander, of course, is crying. It's been 16 years, an odyssey, a journey that it took for this guy who had neck surgery twice. A guy who was stuck in a nothing tag team just last year. Scratched and clawed through the singles division to get right here, to get in this match. Sacrificed the X Division Championship, a bird in the hand. Because he figured being the world champion, he figured he could do it. And he did do it. It was an excellent story. And Max Striker is on commentary and his voice is cracking. Because he knows what Josh Alexander's been through. And it could have been acting. But he's he's kind of breaking down a little bit, and off camera, and the fans are reacting to it, so you know it's coming. But off camera, Moose has gotten in the ring. The camera is on Josh Alexander and his family, specifically him and his son. He's forehead to forehead with him, and speaking inspirational words and all that kind of stuff. Like, look at, finally I did it. And while his back is turned, Moose is there, and he shoves the cup, the trophy, into the referee's hands, and the bell rings, and Josh Alexander is kind of like stupefied as this is all going on, and his wife is trying to get his son out of the ring, and before the little boy is even out of the ring fully, Moose has speared Josh Alexander. There's been a 3 count. I don't even think they're outside of the ring yet. They're still in the ring, I believe. Moose wins the title, and the little boy runs over to his dad and lays on him. And the wife is there watching this. And the little boy is trying to comfort his dad. Come on, man. That's excellent, bro. That's pro wrestling done right, dog. I'm sorry. That shit was great. I know a lot of people get, they want the baby face to overcome the odds and, get his moment. Well, he did get his moment. It lasted about 4 minutes. Like, what do you think? You think he's supposed to have a month? 2 months? The journey. The money is always in the chase. Always in the chase. Unless you're Hulk Hogan, the money is in the chase. If it is true that Impact and AEW are no longer working together, okay, they don't need AEW now, because now they have a hot angle, something they didn't even have when AEW was hanging around beating all their top guys. And it's Moose, the guy who probably should have been the world champion anyway before they started doing all this stupid Forbidden Door stuff. Josh Alexander was the guy that they made. That they took time, couple of months to build up to get in this spot. But Moose has been ready for over a year. It's been quite a while that they have been overlooking Moose. So, to me, it's like no big deal. But now you got this situation where Josh Alexander is going to be furious and motivated because he got a taste of being the world champion. Then it was snatched away from him. The Money in the Bank has become what the old school Dusty finish. For those of you who, maybe you're a little young, you don't know what the Dusty finish is. The AWA blew this out of proportion. And the NWA used to do it a lot too. They've done it a couple of times with Divine Erics, where I think they did it with Kevin, actually. Where Kevin pinned Ric Flair, 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. But during the match, there was some type of chicanery. Kevin threw Ric Flair over the top rope. So then a second referee would come out there and say, oh, no. Kevin running around with the belt, showing his family, taking pictures and everything. And they'd be like, no. Kevin really got disqualified because he threw Ric Flair over the top rope. It was a disqualification. So he got the visual pin. But we're going to take the belt from him anyway. They did it to Hulk Hogan so many times in the AWA. That was their chief way of pushing that story along between him and Bockwinkel. Hogan would beat him, but then it'd be some technicality, it was over the top rope stuff or some of anything, foreign objects or whatever. It's a good way of gauging how a guy would, what the fan reaction would be if he really did win. If he really was the man, what the fan reaction would be. They did it with Jericho and Triple H, where they had Jericho pin Triple H that time, and then they reversed it later that night. The Money in the Bank seems to be something similar. And I guess this Call Your Shot gauntlet, it will be in some ways behaving in a similar way to the Money in the Bank, where it's an opportunity to give guys their comeuppance. If you're a douchebag and you narrowly escape, somebody can always cash in on you. The Seth Rollins, when all three members of the Shield were world champion in one night. Seth pins Roman, who was the champion at the time, to win the title, and then here comes Dean Ambrose. He got no love for Seth Rollins. He don't owe Seth Rollins anything. So he stabs him in the back, cashes in the Money in the Bank on him. Okay, cool. That was a great moment. Great timing. This is similar, where Josh Alexander thought, hard work was the answer. The answer was never hard work. The answer was being an opportunist. It was being cutthroat. It was being vicious. Good guys finish last. That's the lesson you're supposed to learn here. Hard work can only get you so far, buddy. Hard work can only get you so far. And it got him far. Got him to be the world champion. He was technically the world champion for 5 minutes. And then he got beat. It was excellent. Truly beautiful storytelling that now has their TV is going to be, if it wasn't taped, their TV would be red hot right now. But the TV is going to be taped for like 2 months in advance. So that means people are going to get instant gratification. The moment that the spoilers come out, it's going to be instant gratification of us knowing what's going to happen for the next 2 months or whatever the case may be. So we'll know if Josh Alexander is going to get the title back, or if what kind of promos he's going to cut. Even though they might do those in tape fashion. We're going to know what Moose's address is and all that kind of stuff. It's all going to be spoiled before you really can get the cash out of this whole thing. That's the bad thing about taped wrestling in the modern world. If they had live TV and a real network, you have a lot of people tuning in to see what the big deal is, because there are people pissed about this. Especially people who are invested in Impact. They're pissed. And yes, there's a lot of people who are, Moose is a wife beater. Why would you ever put the title on a wife beater like Moose? I don't know the ins and outs of that story, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. All I know is that if he was okay being on the roster this whole time, then he can be world champion. Shit. If he was really a wife beater, like a convicted felon with domestic violence, I'm pretty sure Gail Kim would have screeched and pitched a bitch until he got out of there. But if she's still there and he's still working there, then apparently everything's all right. So I think that also just, is one of those reflexive things where you don't like it so much, you just bring that up. Like, oh shit, I hate this. Fuck him. He's a wife beater. It's like, well, emotional outbursts. Emotional incontinence. You can't control yourself. But this was excellent. Kudos to Impact on this one. Kudos. They needed something big, because Christian versus Josh Alexander was a no frills match that really I had trouble staying awake for. I really did. I was glad the match ended when it did, because I was like, man, I'm tired. This match wore me out. It's two baby faces. There's no, Christian was being heel-ish, but he wasn't a heel. There was no cheating. It was, who's the best wrestler? And they're like, okay, but we're saying who's the best wrestler at almost 1 a.m. I mean, we figure that out some other time? At decent hours? Like, I know it's Las Vegas. You're probably, 3 or 4 hours behind, but let's do this at decent hours, my friend. In any event, that ending was gold. It was money. The only thing that's going to screw it up, again, is the show being taped 2 months in advance. But this is why I meant before about Impact needs to get out of the television game. They got something that's really hot right now. That even people who probably never wasn't interested in Impact now is probably going to be talking about about this. And The thing that made it so different from a regular Money in the Bank cash-in situation is that the guy's wife and son were in the ring. So that emotional attachment was right there. And Moose was so selfish, so focused, that he didn't even care that they were in the ring. He didn't let them leave first. He didn't let them clear out of the way first. He didn't give a shit. Because it's not about him caring. It's about his destiny. About him achieving what he said he was going to achieve over a year ago. It was about him becoming the world champion. So, that was excellent. And there was no desire. I had no desire to bury the lead on this. Instead of working my way through the show, there really was no point. Let's start out with the thing that people want to talk about. Because, Impact, this was their opportunity to do a hard reboot of their product. And I believe that they did a largely hard reboot of the product. There's still some things that we could talk about that are maybe an issue. But I really thought that they made a lot of the right decisions. Even another decision that people thought might have been a bad one. Mickie James wins the Knockouts Championship. She defeats Deonna Purrazzo with a running, spinning DDT. This match, I think, was better than the main event. This is the match that I actually watched this show for. This is one of those, the heel shows up to the babyface's house when they went to the barn, to the farm. And they got into a fight and they started drowning each other and choking each other with water hoses and, trying to stab each other with pitchforks and throwing each other over bales of hay. It was really hot. And because they did all that, yeah, Deonna Purrazzo had to lose. You don't invade somebody's house and then beat them in the match. Like, come on. Anybody who, I know Mickie James is a legend. She didn't need to win this. She could have put Deonna over. If she was going to just put Deonna over, we didn't need to do all the extra stuff that we did. All the on-site stuff, the backstage stuff. It could have just been, she could have did that at Empower, if we're being honest. If they were just going to have Mickie fight Deonna in a fair match and beat her. No, they built this thing up. They put some heat on this thing for a reason. Deonna is not dead. She's lost the title before and won it back. She's had a great run. She's had a couple of great runs. She's still fantastic. She didn't lose anything. Mickie James is a legend. She didn't lose anything because she didn't lose to some bum in a bum-ass match or in a cold match for no reason. It was a high-profile match against somebody there is no shame in losing to them at a time where, you had crossed the line. And therefore, yeah, it makes sense that, you hit your big move, her Queen's Gambit, her catch power driver, Gotch style power driver, off the ropes. She nailed that joint. But I can buy that Mickie James was so, filled with adrenaline after, Deonna Purrazzo disrespected her all these times and interrupted in her house and all this kind of stuff that she wasn't going to stay down. I can buy that. I can buy it. So I don't see this as being controversial in the least bit. I see some people say, well, they finally get their world title back and they give up their women's title. The way I see it, I prefer an Impact NWA crossover to an Impact AEW crossover because at least Impact and AEW are closer in relationship. That is at least a closer relationship. It is a more brother-sister relationship than a big spoon, little spoon relationship. There's nobody going to bully anybody in that situation. Okay? It's because they're both down in doldrums of pro wrestling. They can legitimately help one another by at least increasing each other's profiles and in some way helping each other, at least with the cross-pollination of the audience. With AEW, you're looking at, AEW has a much bigger audience than we do. But you know, none of AEW's really big stars are coming to Impact ever. You know, Punk ain't coming. Danielson ain't coming. Jericho came out in public, said he wasn't coming. Tony Khan used Impact as a test dummy for his online persona, or being this annoying, overbearing, arrogant promoter. He used Impact as a guinea pig for that shit. Because remember, Tony Khan didn't used to cut promos on Twitter and come out and talk about how Raw sucks and all that shit. He used to do that stuff to Impact. He perfected this persona, bullying Impact with his Forbidden Door paid commercials and all that kind of stuff, to the point where guys like Tommy Dreamer had to tell him to chill out. So that's really what all AEW got out of Impact, is a place to send, you know, Kenny Omega so he can have quote unquote good matches, beat all their top guys. Oh, he popped the buy rate. He's the belt collector to make him more valuable for AEW TV. They used the Impact World title to build up AEW TV. And then when Kenny Omega was time to drop the title, oh, he dropped it to another AEW guy. And then beat him at an AEW pay-per-view. So the Impact World Champion lost to the AEW World Champion on an AEW pay-per-view, and then has not done anything significant on AEW since, and has spent most of his time on Impact getting caught up in guys who are barely over. So yeah, I'm glad they did what they did. But Mickie James is a completely different situation. I could just, since Mickie is not going to be the NWA Women's World Champion for a while, you know, I believe it may come eventually. I'm okay with her winning the Knockouts belt for a little while. I believe she probably will end up dropping it back to Deonna in a couple of weeks, maybe at the next pay-per-view, the next pay-per-view is in a couple of months. It's in January. That's 3 months away. I don't know if she'll be champion that long, but I can respect it. You know, they'll probably bring it up that Mickie James is the Impact Women's Champion on Power. You know, maybe they'll do title for title with Camille. That could be fun. You know, just like Deonna did title for title with Fabi Apache in AAA. Speaking of which, she still has that belt. She still has the AAA belt. So, yes, I would have preferred for Deonna to be Little Miss Forbidden Door, and she beats Mickie, and then she beats Camille, and she's got 3 belts. That could have been cool. That could have been awesome. But you went personal with the story in a way where the babyface had to win. Not my fault you booked it that way, but it was awesome. You know, it was awesome. It was very well done. It got some real good heat on this thing. I was very interested in it, and they did the right thing. Mickie won. That was the right choice. You know, you don't bury somebody by having them get their house invaded, their family made fun of, and then they get beat. It's silly. I know that, you know, certain promotions like to do that stuff, and WWE kind of does it too sometimes. But the right way is, if somebody gets super personal with you, you probably should win that match. So those were the two I think that were most controversial. But I liked both decisions. You know, I think the Mickie James was a feel-good decision because she had cut a promo earlier where she talked about winning a title. She hasn't won that title in 8 years. And in 8 years, you know, she had a lot of doubts. She doubted herself. She doubted her abilities and whether she still had it. And now this is not just about, you know, beating the shit out of Deonna Purrazzo. It's also about proving that I'm still worthy of being a world champion. I still got it. You know? So, that was the right decision. Now, one of the decisions that I thought was not necessarily a good one was the Inspiration, aka the Iconics, becoming the Impact Knockouts Tag Team Champions. Now, the reason why I don't think this was a great idea is simply because Impact has done this too many times where, you know, a woman comes in and she almost immediately wins a title without much effort. I think they did it to Rachel Ellering too, where she made her debut, and I think within the month she was a champion. I'm like, wait a minute. Can we get acclimated first? Like, can we, like, gauge skill and talent and all that kind of stuff? Like, nope, just put a title on her immediately. It's like, whoa, okay. You can, slow this thing down. Like, I'm cool with the inspiration coming in. I think that's a great idea. It's a great pickup. You should build to them being the champions. Give them the titles immediately. So now what? There's no journey with them. There's no story with them. There's no nothing. It's just basically you're rewarding them for getting fired from Stanford and then signing with you. Like, well, you guys were adult enough to sign with us or desperate enough to sign with us. So here, take the tag team titles. No, tell the story, have them come in and beat some jobbers or something like that. And then say, hey, we're in the tag team chase. We want to be in it, and we're going to get there. We're going to take our time. And then you could have did weeks of, TV and vignettes and funny storyline stuff with them, leading up to them finally winning the titles. But it didn't seem to be the way that they were going with this. They just kind of decided to microwave it. And that's one aspect of Impact I don't like. There's just no patience. Like, they had some patience, as you can tell by, them taking their time with Moose and stuff like that. But in this situation, it was like there was no patience. They just said to themselves, okay, we don't know what else to do. What else do we do? Just got to make them the champions, right? They're going to be the most over team on the roster. It's like, yeah, but now you got to have opponents and all this. Like, none of that stuff is ready. There's no opponents for them. They beat the only real other team that was together. So now what do you do? I don't know. But I think that was kind of a weak decision. The match itself was okay. I was never really a huge fan of the Iconics in terms of matches. Their outside the ring stuff was fine. They got a live entrance where somebody was singing their theme song. I don't know who that lady was. I think her name was Heather. They did some of their Iconic stuff where they introduced each other. They did a decent job of that because they don't want people still calling them Peyton Royce and Billy Kay. So of course they introduced each other. They did their Iconic stance and but we didn't get an opportunity to see how the inspiration are different from the Iconics before we, took that trip with them to the tag team titles, which is what I was looking forward to. I was looking forward to how they were going to be different, what they were going to do differently. I think they did some different moves in this match, but that was about it. I didn't really see a marked improvement in their match quality, but, they're characters. They're not great wrestlers. They're good characters. So they are a great pickup. It was a good decision to bring them in. I just think that they gave them the titles way too fast. That's about it. Another good decision. Trey Miguel wins the X Division title over El Phantasmo and Steve Macklin in a triple threat match. El Phantasmo was getting on my nerves. He kept doing cartwheels for no reason. Like, I remember telling people before, like, I miss old school wrestling moves like the back rake. And then El Phantasmo did like a cartwheel into a back rake. And he did it like 3 or 4 times. And he turned me off of that move. I was like, I don't ever want to see that back rake ever again. I'm over just guys being considered stars or top guys because they wrestle in Japan or something. Like, I don't know. I've never seen anything out of El Phantasmo that made me think that he deserves anything special. It's just a generic high flyer to me. Steve Macklin is different. He's not generic high flyer. He's kind of generic tough guy, kind of generic crazy guy though. But Trey Miguel was completely the right decision. To be quite honest, they should have made the Trey Miguel decision a long time ago, and maybe even pushed him up the card. I mean, personally, I think that would have been the guy I likely would have had near the main event in a main event program, and not in a popcorn high spot match, which is all X Division matches are anyway. It's popcorn high spot matches. I did like that his friends, the guys from MSK, they were hugely excited on Twitter about him finally becoming the X Division champion. They were really excited for it. And a lot of other people were too. A lot of people were like, finally. And so I'm like, I'm not alone in this. A lot of people were like, finally. They made the decision to make Trey Miguel a champion, which was the right decision. And again, should have been done a long time ago. I don't see what they were waiting for, but I guess they had a plan when it came to like Josh Alexander and stuff like that. So it got put on the back burner. But that was a right decision. Good decision. Match was okay too. Right guy won. See, Violent by Design versus Heath and Rhino. A good match. Told the story that it needed to tell and didn't linger too long. The story was simple. He said if Rhino doesn't come out there and help him, he's going to fight them by himself. And if he loses, he's going to leave. He's going to get out of Impact. So, Diener and Doring were his opponents. And Rhino didn't show up. And so he took the beating. He just took a beat down. And in the middle of the match, of course, Rhino shows up, tags in, hot tag. And Rhino ends up pinning Diener for the win. And it was another feel-good moment where that felt earned because they had laid the groundwork on the story. Later in the show, Heath was like, hey, he was a little late, but at least he was there, And Rhino talked and was saying like, hey, I gave up on myself. A lot of people gave up on me, but you never did, So I'm always going to be in your corner. He said, Uncle Rhino is back. And I was I was like, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. And that's exactly what we needed in this situation. That's exactly what we needed. All right. The Good Brothers defeated Finn Juice and Chris Bay and Hikuleo. I mean, come on. Who cares? Really? Who gives a shit? The Good Brothers are awful. They're boring. They're bland. They're dry. This match was dry as hell. This is the match that made me tired, if we're being honest. I was fine, until this match. Then I was like, oh my God. There's so many people in this match I don't like. Hikuleo, the Good Brothers, Finn Fuck. Why am I watching this? Guys don't literally go do anything else. And I just started getting drained as the match went on longer and longer. I was like, no, I will at least make it to the main event. But the Good Brothers win. Everybody's happy. I don't know. I don't know what this means, though, because if it's the end of the Forbidden Door, does this mean that the Good Brothers are trapped now in Impact where they actually sign contracts? I don't know. Okay, that works for me because it keeps them off Dynamite. But I'm pretty sure they're not going to be happy about it. Not that I care about their happiness or anything like that. But considering if that's the end of the Forbidden Door, then these guys are the best tag team they have because they really don't have any other tag teams. So most of the show was the Call Your Shot Gauntlet, which was a very long match. But the most of the show was very solid, and I enjoyed it. And I really didn't have too much to complain about. I did like some of the angles. They did a good job of building up stuff for this show. So everything felt like it had a reason to exist. And even if you didn't like it, it still had a reason to exist. The only throwaway match to me was the not the Call Your Shot Gauntlet, but the tag team title match because it was thrown together at the last minute. All right, but it is worth discussing that they now have a digital media champion who is Jordan Grace. And around this time last year, I really didn't like Jordan Grace. I was like shitting all over her, calling her Miss Piggy, all kinds of stuff. But she has really impressed me lately, especially with all the powerlifting stuff that she's been doing. I really kind of feel like she should get credit for that, and I shouldn't, diss her so heavily when she can actually do things well. Too bad it doesn't translate that great to wrestling, but her body has changed a lot. She's in much better shape than she used to be in. You know, she looks very strong. It wasn't just like, now she actually has muscle, where before she was putting up her arm and it looked like she's just, fat. Now she actually looks kind of solid. She's strong as hell. She's in shape. I don't like intergender wrestling though. So this digital media thing is not for me. Also didn't watch the match because why would I? I think it was on the kickoff show anyway, or the pre-show, whatever it was. I still have not gotten a good definition of what this title even is, or what it means for the company, or how it takes the company forward. I don't know. But I'm guessing that's the idea, is that's going to take the title forward. But it seems silly to me. It seems silly. Like, is it going to be defended on YouTube and Twitter and shit? Is that the goal? To defend that title on YouTube and Twitter? And because that might be interesting. If they're going to have a YouTube only championship where, that match, her versus some guy is going to be YouTube only, or it's going to take place on TikTok or something like that. That might be interesting. That could be something different, But I haven't actually heard that. And also the level of the talent that was involved with this was an absolute joke. Tennille Dashwood, Jordan Grace, John Schuyler. It's like, you didn't put anybody in that you actually cared about, so why should I care? Jordan Grace, really, you'd think that she has, when she had the opportunity to get out of Impact, I think earlier this year when her contract was about to expire, but she re-signed. Don't know if it was a lack of opportunities elsewhere or what, but, she's been on the back burner for so many months now. It's not like she's like a hot property who won this thing. She was kind of like also ran, who was like, oh, well, an old faithful more than anything. But now there's a digital media champion, because there has to be a champion of everything. But I must see how that translates to how they use the belt. So they're going to use the belt, like have a digital media division where these people have matches on YouTube. That could be fine. You have to populate it with people that other folks care about. But that could be good. Like a complimentary show. Like Impact is like the only wrestling show, well, other than Ring of Honor, that doesn't have a supplementary show. Like WWE has a bunch of supplementary shows, like Main Event and 205 Live and some stuff like that. AEW has got, Dark and Dark Elevation, but Impact doesn't have. And they used to have Explosion, but they don't have it anymore. At least I don't believe they do. They have Before the Impact, I guess. I guess that's because they have matches and storylines there, but not really. They really just say, oh, this match is going to happen and Before the Impact. And it's like sometimes it was born out of a swingers palace, but most of the time it was just like a random match. So if they're going to move that to YouTube and start doing storylines and stuff, okay, cool. I'm all right with that. But I really have to see how that's going to turn out. All in all, I give Bound for Glory a thumbs up. Big fan of the finish. It was excellent. Big fan of Mickie James winning the title. Also very good. Big fan of Trey Miguel winning the title. Great. Moose winning the Call Your Shot Gauntlet. Even if I didn't like it, which I thought he might win the world title when he did win that thing. I was like, finally, he probably might actually be the world champion now. And he actually did it. So that was great. But most of the other matches, I was kind of like, take it or leave it. And they rushed the Iconics to the title. They didn't need to. And the Good Brothers are boring as shit. I could do without them. But let me know what you guys think. If you didn't watch the show, I suggest you at least watch Deonna Purrazzo versus Mickie James, and that you watch Moose cash in and see if you can find that emotional reaction to the Christian Josh Alexander story. And maybe if you can find the entrance to the Iconics, that might be worth watching too. But let me know what you guys think. Like, share, subscribe. donate to the channel. Thank you guys for your time, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Tell me what's worse than learning all that you led to believe was all horse crap. They distort so